Hey guys, what's up? Alright, so this video, I wanted to do some talking about my mom's death and, how she was murdered. I'm gonna talk about some things that may be a trigger for some people. If you're personally going through that, I just wanted to put this out there as a warning. Okay, so just make sure to take care of your mental health, and if it's a lot for you to hear, some things I would recommend maybe not watching this video, but otherwise let's continue. So the day was March 3rd, 2005, and it was in the morning. I was at work. I worked at Toys R Us as a cashier full time, and there was a phone call that came over the headset for me. Somebody said that I had an emergency phone call. So I went to the phone at the customer service desk, and it was my sister on the other side, and she said, "Mom is dead. Somebody killed her." I don't remember much. Everything kind of went blank. I do remember crying, dropping to the floor, and my manager bringing me into the break room to kind of get me out of public eye, I guess. It's probably not the best place to break down, I guess, but, what are you going to do? You can't control everything, right? So I ended up going by my mom's house because I just couldn't believe it. There was no way that was true. And when I pulled up outside her house, there were, do not cross medical examiners were everywhere, the coroner, police, detectives. It was crowded with all these emergency vehicles in the little parking lot area where she lived. And she lived on a first floor, so there were, people going in and out of her house in these suits, like hazmat suits. My mom did have AIDS and cancer from, beforehand. So with the way that she died, it was very dangerous. Blood was everywhere. Now, to talk about how she died is, okay. Sorry, this is extremely difficult, and I need to get this out there. So it was this kid who had troublemaking history. He got kicked out of his own grandparents' house because he had a flaming bottle thrown through the window. So they kicked him out, and of course my mom, being the person, like the neighborhood mom for everybody, she took him in. I was living with an ex-boyfriend at the time and didn't have much contact with my family. So I didn't know much about him, but something about the guy rubbed me the wrong way, and I told my mom I didn't like him. And she even went as far as putting him on the phone one day and trying to tell me I was a good dude. She had Section 8 housing, and it was supposed to be my bedroom in case I wanted to move back home. But she gave the guy that killed her, ultimately in the end, she gave him my bedroom. And he lived with her, and he was her PCA worker. And he was supposed to be taking care of her, but he got caught up in the wrong crowd, and I believe there were drugs involved because she would get her pain medicine and her disability paycheck on the beginning of the month, and she hid it, and that those pills and that money was never located. It went missing. And he was one of the only people who knew where it was, so why, But she, she took good care of him many years, and he did that. So, and then he was acquitted. Now, so to explain more about the trial and what I discovered about how my mom's life was taken, she had sliding glass doors in her living room. And what we're thinking is maybe she caught him going through stuff where the money was hidden or something. I don't know. It was early in the morning. It was at 7 a.m. and she was pronounced dead. And she was beaten with a board, like a 2x4, that was used to hold the sliding glass doors closed, like an extra security measure. And she was beaten with that. All her ribs were broken. And then she was stabbed over 50 times in her head, in her hand. She had defensive wounds from trying to grab the knife, apparently. She had, scrapes and cuts all over her hands. And she was stabbed in her ears. But what's crazy about all that, she survived that. She called 911 herself. There was a video recording. I don't think she could hear them, but she got on the phone and she was saying hello, but it was gurgly, so they didn't really notice much of what she was saying. But when I heard the tape, I knew. And she was saying hello, and all of a sudden the line went dead. And what they think happened is he was trying to clean up to cover his tracks, caught her on the phone, and grabbed the bread knife out of the knife block on the counter and slit her throat. And that was the final blow. So that's what finally did it. There were, for those of you that aren't familiar with prints and so on, forensic stuff, they had, without a doubt, he took off. He had a friend's car. He took off. There was my mom's blood in the car. And he had a bag of clothes with blood on the back. Swinging motion would cause blood to splatter onto the back and behind the ears. These are places blood wouldn't get if you didn't commit the crime. But his lawyer was better than our prosecutor. And with that, somehow he managed to get acquitted. But he had blood on his clothing, and he put it in a bag and hid it at his mom's house in a spare bedroom. The most fucked up thing is my sister and her children were living in his mom's finished basement at the time, like renting it out. So he did that to my mom and then went back to the house where my sister and her kids were and hid a bag of clothes with my mom's blood all over him, and then just went about his day like nothing happened. I don't understand how. He also left what's called latent blood prints, which is, think of finger painting. You touch the body or you get blood on your hands, and it's not already on the item. It would be, I touched the blood, then it's on my hands, then I left, like a finger painting on a wall, right above my mom's body. He left that in his own handprint, but his lawyer was able to get that debunked with saying that, oh, well, he was her PCA worker, his handprints were everywhere. He tried mopping up the blood. He tried wiping up and cleaning himself up. But for those of you that are familiar with anything true crime or, forensics, you can't just wash off blood. So it stays, and with special lights, it shows. So, he was found, but his defense story that got him acquitted was my mom was calling him all night, which I don't believe is true. She was calling him all night long, and he went there in the morning to check on her and found her dead. But the timing doesn't add up. There was a little kid that was a witness that seen him leaving right after my mom was yelling for help. So his lawyer was able to get that thrown out too. The little boy never got to testify. There was somebody in prison that he said that he did it to, that he confessed to about killing my mom. And because that's considered hearsay, that was thrown out. And then there is the double jeopardy law. For those of you not familiar, I'll explain it a little bit, is when somebody's tried for a crime and acquitted, you can't be tried for the same crime twice. So because he was acquitted, he was able to go out and tell anybody and everybody that he did it. And there's not a damn thing we can do. I've seen this man. One time I was pregnant, with my oldest daughter. And I went into a store and I came up to the counter and he was standing there, and I almost had a miscarriage because of that. It sent some serious problems and put me in the hospital because I couldn't handle it. And then another time, my daughter was a little older. He was crossing the road in front of me, but she was in the car. And I'm afraid to say, if she wasn't, would I have had enough restraint to not run him over? You know, people don't realize the amount of trauma you endure when somebody close to you is murdered. It's images and information and things that are burned into my brain that I don't think I'll ever be able to forget. And my sisters didn't get to sit through the trial, and that's a good thing for them, even though they got to hear it all and see it all after with the transcripts and stuff. The trial was 3 weeks long. I spent my 21st birthday watching the video of the crime scene and my mom's body laying there on the floor in a pool of blood, and everything, forensics, you know, with the video. It was extremely difficult, and it still fucks me up to this day, and I'm 33 now. So just to, you know, put that into perspective. But trauma is the son of a bitch, and for the longest time, I mean, I couldn't talk to anybody. Nobody really understood. I lost relationships. I lost friends. I stopped talking to family. I stopped talking to a lot of people. And I just sunk myself into work and became a workaholic. And I did retail management after that. And I started becoming so obsessed that, you know, I kept looking for more and more work, try to keep myself busy and my brain occupied, until I met my current husband now. And I'm finally healing. I'm finally getting better. And that's, you know, important, is always taking care of yourself and your mental health, because it's not easy. It's not, you know, something that you can just get over. And everybody grieves in their own way. Everybody deals with death and trauma and all of these obstacles in life in their own time, in their own way. And what I found, a lot of things back then was being shut out. A lot of people didn't want to hear it. And maybe it's because they couldn't handle it, or maybe it's because they didn't know what to say. All I needed was just somebody to sit there and nod their head and pretend that they cared. I didn't want people to dictate how I felt, and that happened a lot back then, is how I should feel or how I should be doing things. And there's no rule book for that. There's nothing. So for those of you dealing with, you know, intense trauma, just know that it's okay to avoid triggers. If the triggers being things that are going to remind you and get those images to replay over and over in your head. And it's okay, you know, to keep your distance from people for a little bit. Yeah, you should probably get out there and talk to people, but don't force yourself. If you're not ready, you have to be ready. You have to be ready to take the step to heal. And until you're ready, you're not going to make much progress. And it takes a lot of work, a lot of patience. And to be honest, I don't know if I'll ever be okay, but I'm sure in the hell trying. And I'm trying for my kids. I'm trying to do better. I'm trying to be better. I'm trying not to let, you know, that date of March 3rd, 2005 run my life. And I am trying to remember the good times and the memories made. Granted, I had a really rough upbringing, and there was some really shitty things in my upbringing, but, you know, I still love my mom to pieces. I met my real biological father at my mom's funeral. He walked in and said, "I'm your dad." I said, "Fuck you, no you're not." And that was that. I mean, one and only time I ever really met him. And I don't care to. He wasn't a great man. He was not somebody I want around my children. So for now, this is going to be the end of this, but I just wanted to put this out there and tell the story about my mom and her death. And it was or, you know, just awful. I'm gonna post some comments, I think, maybe showing, you know, about my mom. And she was a beautiful soul who just got lost in the darkness. And sometimes that's really easy to do when you're surrounded by so much of it. So guys, keep your head up. Tomorrow's a new day. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. You just have to believe in yourself, and you have to believe that you can do it. You can get through whatever challenge you're going through. It's not a pissing contest either. You know, my trauma and my problems aren't worse than the next guy, and I don't like the pity. I want to put this out there for support and solidarity, and to tell people that they're not alone. And if you ever need to chat, drop a comment and let me know if there's something I can do to help you get through your traumas. Please like and subscribe. As always, thank you for watching. Peace out.